Are you a football fan? Have you ever found yourself wondering, what in the world was that ref thinking? Well, Mike D, the referee, is here to help you. Join me on Whistle Talk as I talk to professionals on the field and in the booth to help you understand what is going on inside the mind of a football official. All right. Good morning, Whistle Talk Nation. How's everybody doing out there? Once again, Mike D, the referee, here for another episode of Whistle Talk. Today, I got a super special guest with me. But before we begin, for those of you that are out there listening on Spotify, Apple, all those different segments, different spots, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, throw in some comments you may have. Let's get the word out there for what we're doing here in the football world. And if you're hearing it on YouTube or watching it later on YouTube, hit those subscribe buttons once again. So today I got with me a first for myself. I have a former NFL player, but not just any former NFL player, a Super Bowl champion NFL player, also somebody who was involved in, I think, the most Super Bowl games as a player, and now moved on to the coaching ranks, Don Beebe. Don, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be on this, Mike. I appreciate you having me.
So, yeah, 6 Super Bowls, you got a ring, and now you've got a couple state championships, if I am correct in saying that, as a high school coach, and now you've moved up to the Division III college ranks as a coach. So, been involved in this sport for quite a long time with a whole lot of success.
Yeah, I've been very blessed to play for some great coaches. And if they taught me one thing, they taught me to go get good players. So I've been very fortunate to have some great players in the 10 years as a head coach at Aurora Christian High School, which is a suburb of Chicago area. And then I moved into the local college once I became an empty nester. My wife and I decided I kind of wanted a little bit of a more competitive level, at the college. Had opportunities, Mike, to go FBS or NFL, and I just thought it was too much of a business for me. And this was before the portal, so I'm glad I actually made that decision, because we don't have to deal with that as much, even though we do. I wouldn't have handled that very well. So I just love the purity of the sport. It's just always been me. I feel like I'm 10 years old in my mom's backyard, still playing and coaching it. So until that goes away, I'm going to keep coaching this thing.
That's pretty awesome. So, one thing that a lot of people don't understand or know about you in general is you really had to work your way up. You weren't at a major university, a Penn State, an Alabama, or something like that, for you to get your exposure, even to get your opportunity in the NFL. Tell the listeners a little bit about your college background, your playing career, I should say.
Well, I'm going to give you the Reader's Digest view because it's long. Because I didn't take, like you said, the normal path, that's for sure. To go from a high school dream to play professionals, like 1% make it. I'm actually probably 1% of that 1% of what I did. So I only played 2 years of college football. One was at Western Illinois University, and then one was a really small school in NAI Division II. They're D2 now, but at that time they were NAI Division II, Chadron State, Nebraska. And how I landed up there, the coach there, he recruited me out of high school 5 years before that, 1988. So he recruited me in 83 from high school, and from when he was at Western. So then when I was out of eligibility at Western, he was out there, Chadron, and that's why I went out there. And then how I got invited to the combine at Indianapolis is a miracle from the Lord itself. So I go there, and my life changed in 3 days. I went there. I ran the 40 in a 4.25, which tied that year in 1989 with Deion Sanders. We broke the all-time record in the combine, and it stood for 17 years until Chris Johnson broke it in 2006 or 7, I think.
Yep.
And because of that, coming from Chadron, I had to do that. And the only thing is that, as I would tell Dion today, who I love Dion, but is I did mine in a flopping fishing shoe. So it was my old high school fishing shoes. So I didn't have an agent. I didn't know I needed one. I ran the 40 in the shoes that I wore into the building, and my right sole of the shoe was half unglued. So when I walked, it flopped, and I ran, it really flopped. So imagine hearing a flopping shoe as you're running the 40 down the track in 1989. Just crazy story. But I ran a 4.25, and then my life changed. So I, over the next month and a half before the draft that year, I had 21 workouts, 21 teams of 28 at that time in the NFL.
Okay.
Came to Chadron, and I ran my fastest time was for the New York Jets, is a 4.21. No, nothing against the Jets, but thank God they didn't draft me. But the Buffalo Bills drafted me in the 3rd round. It was their first pick that year. So to go from 2 years of college football, nobody know who you were, breaking the all-time record, and then being the team's first pick in an NFL draft is only a story that God could create. So that's how I got where I was.
Yeah, and you got picked up by as opposed to, like you said, the New York Jets, you got picked up by a team with Jim Kelly, Thurman Munson, Andre Reed, and had a pretty good run going on there with those guys. Unfortunately, you did run into I am an ardent Giants fan, so I do apologize about that in advance. But one
Yep.
of my favorite Super Bowls, watching that one as a kid, I loved that. Was just an incredible football game, and the fact that you were a part of that um, was just amazing. Um, so you had you're one of the few people that could probably say you've caught in touchdown passes from Jim Kelly, Brett Favre, Frank Reich. So you've had some pretty good guys chucking you the ball there, huh?
Yeah, and I would even go a step further. I actually played with the 2 greatest defensive ends of all time, in Bruce Smith, who holds the record for sacks in a career, and Reggie White, I think, is number 2 still.
Yep, in Green Bay.
So 2 of the greatest defensive ends and 2 of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, in Jim and Brett. So yeah, I was blessed to have great coaches. I was blessed to play with great players and great teams, and I wouldn't change a thing, man. I had the time of my life.
That's awesome. Yeah, and Coach Levy is
The best.
unbelievable. Who was it in Green Bay? Was it Coach
Mike
Holmgren
Holmgren.
at the time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So what I would say about
And
that, Mike, is this: first of all, Coach Levy is an absolute true mentor of mine. Probably the greatest, most humblest Hall of Fame person you'll ever want to meet. A lot of the guys, I think we had like 9 or 10 guys. So, Thurman Thomas and Jim Kelly and Bruce Smith and Andre Reed and Daryl Talley and Cornelius Bennett and all these guys, Steve Tasker and I, we just celebrated Coach Levy's 99th birthday a couple months ago, about a month and a half, 2 months ago, in downtown Chicago. Everybody drove in or flew in, and we took him to dinner and celebrated his 99th. And he is just an absolute incredible man. Still emails me during the season, and then Mike Holmgren. So my Coach Marv taught me how to run a program, right? Coach Mike, I learned more probably offensively in the strategies of how to design plays and create plays and in play calling from Coach Holmgren, who really one of his mentor or proteges is who I think is the greatest in the game today, and Andy Reid.
yeah,
Greatest play designer of all time right now is Andy Reid.
uh, I don't think many people out there can dispute that. So, and I love how you're bringing up these 2 gentlemen as your mentors, because in one of my previous one of the previous shows we had, I had a first year official on, and he was asking for just tips of how they can improve in the officiating world. And the biggest thing that I said is find a mentor, find somebody you can talk with, find somebody that's going to be honest with you, critique you, and not just placate and say, oh, yeah, you were fantastic when maybe you had a bad game. Like, find somebody to truly mentor you and be there for you and be a sounding board for you. And it sounds like you had two of the greatest right there with Marv Levy and Coach Holmgren. So I mean, that's
Yeah.
fantastic stuff.
It's funny. Here's a tidbit you probably don't know, Mike, about Coach Levy. They took a poll in the early 90s or late 80s of the referees in the NFL. And they said,
Okay.
what's your greatest fear? Or what coach do you fear the most? And they said, coach, reffing a Marv Levy game because he knew more than we did. So he held them to the standard, man. When there was a rule that was in question, they never questioned Marv. So he was that intelligent. But the guy holds a master's degree from Harvard in literature. I mean, the guy was brilliant. Still is.
S Yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, I did not know that, and it's actually funny because doing some research before getting on here today with you, one of the things that I found was about a 59-yard touchdown reception that you had that,
Yeah.
well, supposedly, according to the notes, you were downed, but in today's day and age, we got replay in the NFL. Back then, they didn't have replay, so did Coach Marv happen to say anything at that scenario, or
Yeah, actually, there was two plays, one in Buffalo, and the one that you're referring to was on a Monday night when I was in Green Bay against
Green
the
Bay? I'm sorry.
49ers. Yeah, that's okay, against the 49ers. And, the thing is, when I dove to catch the ball from Brett, I didn't feel anybody touch me. And as an instinct, you just get up and run. And I ran and scored the touchdown. And then when they showed the replay on the big screen, you could see clearly that as he was falling down, his hand touched my hip, and I was certainly down by contact. And then the other one in Buffalo, and this is a bigger one actually because it happened in the greatest comeback against the Houston Oilers in NFL playoff history.
Yep.
And I had got pushed out of bounds, and my foot stepped on the line and then re-entered the field and then caught a crucial touchdown to start really the comeback on that. And boy, every time I see an old Houston guy, which I'm going to see this weekend, by the way, Bo Easton, I'm
Okay.
sure I'm going to hear all about me stepping out of bounds. It is what it is.
Well, in today's game, as long as you reestablish yourself back in bounds, you're
Yes.
good. But back in the days, that hat should have been on the ground at that point in time,
Yep.
signifying that you were out of bounds.
That's right.
So things have definitely changed, and that's actually one of the things that I would love to talk to you about. You've had an opportunity through your playing career and then coaching at multiple levels to see the changes in the rules and officiating and stuff like that. One specific question I have to ask you as a wide receiver. What are your thoughts on today's pass interference rules that we have in the NFL and even down the line at to the college and the high school level? How do you feel about how it's called? And it's definitely a little bit different today than it was when
Yeah.
you were playing.
Oh gosh, yeah. I remember, but distinctly. I mean, I'm playing with guys in like Lester Hayes and Michael Haynes at the end of their careers, and then other guys later on, Dion and Dale Carter and guys like that, where there was no. I mean, you could be flying across the field, and if you're not looking, you can get blindsided, and that would never
Yep.
get called. Um, in this grab and held and all that stuff. The way here's my view on calls and referees and the rules, and is I never want to look at a referee and say, what are you calling and what are you doing or anything like that. It's the same way I would look at my players. All I expect is that I know they're trying. I know they're going to screw up and they're going to make bad calls or they're going to
Mhm.
drop a ball or fumble a football. And I'm not going to sit there and yell and scream at a guy that I know is trying to do his job. So that, you know, I'm just not one to complain a lot when it comes to those things. I just know I use the analogy. It's like coaching. Every time I make a decision who's going to play and who doesn't play, it's like refereeing a basketball game or a football game. Every time you blow the whistle, somebody's going to love you and somebody's going to hate you.
Yep.
So why complain on something of that nature? They're just trying to do their job. Now, in trying to answer your question, um, you know, comparing it to the old days and what it is now, I probably like the rules of today a little bit better because a guy could just grab you and throw you down, and nowadays you can't do that. But
Yeah.
back in my day, you could, and I just thought that was a little bit of more of an advantage for the defense. But I'm sure those guys would disagree. All those DBs in this world would disagree with that. But I like the rules better today, the way it's standard than it was.
And it's funny too because you brought up Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, as everyone calls him today, and he seems to be more known for the offensive prowess of what he's got going on with the Buffaloes than the defensive stuff. I think he's kind of taken advantage of how the rules are set up for his kids playing the sport and of just a cleaner release and different things like that that they're able to get as opposed to being held and some of the things that I'm sure he kind of tried to get away with, but he also made up for a lot of it with his overall athletic ability. But
Yeah. Yeah. There's no kidding. I just, first of all, the fans, what do they want to see? They want to see 30, 40, 50 points. They want to see points on the board. Okay. So, and
yep,
if the fans like it, that sells tickets. Let's just say money is going to go, we're going to always go in the direction of what sells tickets. Okay. At every level. Okay.
yes,
So, they're always going to make rules to probably, give the advantage to the offensive guys. So that's why you see a lot of points being scored and the spreading out on the defenses. And, back in my day, 12 personnel was a big personnel. 21 personnel was a big personnel. Now it's 10, 11, 0 personnel. Just spread them out and go
yep,
5 wide. But it creates for the fan base something exciting to watch.
absolutely. Um, I lost my train of thought there.
I do that
Going
quite
through
often,
different.
Mike. I just want you to know.
Well, I'm sitting here going through. I understand 12 personnel, 11 personnel, and all that. So for the
Yep.
people that are out there that don't know the coach speak, that's the number of backs and tight ends that are out on the field. And
Yeah.
back in the day, 21 personnel with the fullback in there, two backs, a tight end. That's old school power football. And today, when you got the zero package, well, now you got 5 receivers and you're completely spreading everybody out. So
Yeah.
for those people that weren't aware of that, um, but now also like with these rules, and you mentioned it, going across the middle, it was a hazard zone. I mean, guys that you probably played against. I don't know if Ronnie Lott was still around at that point in time, but you're talking about the two guys in Oakland at the time, the Haynes and Hayes. They were looking to take your head off if you came across the middle, ball in the air, ball not in the air, different things like that. So the rules have definitely changed for the safety aspect. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I'm fine with that. Hey, listen, I always knew where Ronnie was. I always knew where Steve Atwater was. I always knew where
Oh
those
yeah,
guys were. You learn really quickly when you come across the middle. You better know where those guys are. So if they're a little deeper, take that dig route a little shorter. If they're a little shorter, take the post over the top. Don't get caught down in that territory. So, and I was more of an outside guy than a slot guy too. Back in my day, we didn't have a lot of slot guys. Matter of fact, Andre Reed really was one of the premier slot receivers that started out in the early 90s to where nowadays everybody has, 1 or 2 slot guys.
yep,
But yeah, I like the rule. When you're a defenseless guy taking shots, we had to create rules to pull that back a little bit. Personally, I like the way the rules are. I think on the quarterback, I think it's a bit gone overboard. We barely sneeze on these men now, and it's like, oh, there's a flag.
yep.
I understand it, but I think we're protecting the quarterback a little bit to the other side of that right now. But the way it's called on the linebacker or defenseless guys across the middle, I actually like how it's set up right now.
Now, for you in the Division 3 level, as opposed to the major college football, what people are watching Saturday afternoons, with the targeting type of violations, is it still the same ideas at your level with the targeting, where it could potentially be lead to an ejection, but there's not replay assist if I'm correct in saying that to possibly bring that player back in. Are you seeing different things like that?
Yeah, we actually have it at the D3 level, where if it happens in the first half, they can look at it at halftime and then make the decision if he's disqualified. They can disqualify him right there on the field, and then
Okay.
make a decision at halftime to determine if he has to miss the second half as well, and if it happens in the second half, to determine if he has to miss the next game. Okay, so it is something. And personally, Mike, I think they're not calling it enough at our level.
Okay.
I'm seeing when I'm watching film, especially the shots on the quarterback. These guys leading with their heads, and it happens quite often. And I would like to see it called a little bit more when the guy leads with the crown of the helmet. It's just not. It should be deterred against big time. I had 6 major concussions, and who knows how many after that. And when I say major concussion, I mean I'm hit and I'm out. Okay, my arm's
Yeah.
straight up in the air. I have, next thing I know, I'm in some other, locker room. So
Oof.
I would like to see at our level that being emphasized even more.
Now, I think it was just this past weekend in the NFL, we had the Trevor Lawrence incident where he slid and the defensive player came in with the crown of his helmet, like you're talking about. That player now has gotten a 3-game suspension for that. Are those the type of plays that you're still seeing at your level too?
No, we don't see it now. If in Trevor's situation, if that would have happened at our level, that play probably would have got called for sure.
Okay.
He probably would have got that game suspension or whenever it happened during the course of that game. I don't know if we have anything instituted where they would be a 3-game suspension. I don't believe we do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that certainly should have been called. The funny
Mhm.
thing about it is, and I understand the other side of this somewhat because Josh Allen. I mean, listen, he's going to get that ball. He ain't sliding. He's going to run the
No.
guy over. And a big man like that, he's going to run that DB over. So I get the deal, and maybe I don't know. There's always the rules are always ever changing, as you well know, because things are always popping up and new things come along. But that hit for sure was out of control. He should have never hit him
Yeah.
like that.
Yep. And I just saw a replay too, because I guess it happened a couple years back to Cam Newton, and nothing was called.
Yeah.
But again, you're relating to Josh Allen. Josh Allen is a big mobile quarterback, and everybody knows. So it seems like when the quarterback is more of a mobile style quarterback, that they're giving the defenses a little bit more leniency as opposed to somebody such as Trevor Lawrence. He's athletic enough that he does run here and there, but he's not really lowering the boom like Cam was doing, and like Josh Allen's doing in today's game. Josh Allen's just an absolute beast. And by the way, that little hook and lateral from last week's game, that was an amazing play. That was just purely athletic, uncalled. Just 2
Yeah.
athletes doing their thing. I'm sure you
Yeah.
got a chance to see that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I watched that. I try to get as many of those, the Bills games and Packers as well. Because they're both my favorite teams. But yeah, I mean, that just shows you what kind of guy he is. I mean, listen, I'm a huge Josh Allen fan. He reminds me a lot of Jim and Brett. I mean, just 10-year-old kids playing in the backyard. I mean, they just love the game, man. It's just that's the way it
Yeah.
should be played. Instead of some of these prima donna mentalities, and they listen, they're just common guys playing a great game. And if you meet them, for the most part, unless they're in big crowds, they're just good dudes, man, and fun to watch.
Yeah, that's awesome stuff. So your level, how many officials do you have for your games right now?
It's the same in the NFL.
Okay, so you're
Yep.
playing with 8.
Yep.
And when you were in high school, do you recall how many officials you had for your high school games? Was it
One,
5 or
two, three,
6?
four. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5.
5.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you see a big change in different zones and different areas, that what we call our zones, and um, just our areas of keys and stuff like that. So are
Yeah.
you
Actually,
seeing
actually, our level is 7. Yeah, we
7?
don't have it, and now I'm counting in my head. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
is
it's
your
different.
umpire in the offensive backfield?
Yes.
And do you have somebody on the defensive side too with the
Middle,
linebackers?
middle, and
Okay,
deep. Yeah.
and deep.
Yeah.
So that's covering a lot of different zones and
It
a lot of
is.
different areas. Where at the high school level, and more so with the youth level, we've got 3 people.
Yeah.
High school level for sub varsity is typically 3. Sometimes it's 4 officials. And there's a lot of states around the country that for a varsity game, it's still 5 until you get to your big championship games, where here in New Jersey, we're typically 6. And for our state games, we're a 7-person crew. We're trying
Yeah.
to get up to speed with that. So with the 7-person game, are you finding different areas that or different types of plays that aren't being called more often or some kind of dead zones or different things like that? Because I know for us in the 6-person game as the officials, the middle of the field is probably the toughest area for us to use the word police to have a key on because it's multiple people's keys and well, it's multiple people's secondary keys. So when we're focusing on one key, trying to periph and catch that one, are you seeing anything like that with the 7-person crew?
Yeah, no, I prefer the more the merrier, to be honest with you. The
Mhm.
more eyes you can get on reffing a game, uh, the better called game it's going to be. Um, to me, I think the biggest discrepancy call in the game, and it's hard because it literally pretty much happens on every down, is holding. It's just hard to always see it. Okay, for one, and then to in a split second, it pretty much determine was it holding. You know, I'm always, and I know that this is pretty much the rule in the NFL, is if it's impeding the guy to make the play, then it's a hold.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's a quick judgment call by a referee.
Yeah.
He sees the grab, and if it's not really impeding him, or it's on the other side of it and away from the play, even you could even say, okay, it didn't mean anything in the play, in a
Yeah.
sense, unless it's just completely flagrant. Um, but that's a tough call to make. I mean, some of these other ones holding down the field get missed because you're right. They don't have as many eyes in that area as they do in the box. But I see more of a consistency, let's say, in those areas than I do on holding in the box.
Yeah. See, now the holding in the box for your level, you've got basically two in the offensive backfield, one on the defensive side, plus your short wings are looking at the tackles and receivers, and then your deep wings are looking at the outside receivers, and now you got that person in center field. If it's a tight end, they're focusing in on that. So you got a lot of different eyes focusing in on that box. So it is
Yeah.
definitely caught much more than it is out in space.
Yeah.
The one that I have a hard time with as an official sometimes is the defensive holding on some of the receivers because it just seems at times it seems ticky tack, and I know I'm kind of critiquing and criticizing some officials, but it is what the rule states. But like you said, if it's truly impeding them, then yeah, it has to be called. But you're going to get hands on people. It's a contact sport. It's a violent sport. So I think some of those need to be a play on type of scenario. And unless it's truly stopping the route, taking away their route, taking away their timing, I like to keep the flag a little bit deeper in my pocket than some other officials, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that philosophy. I think you just let the guys play. And
Yeah.
the key word in what you said is impede. Is it if it keeps him from doing what he needs to get done on the route, then it's impeding. If it's just a grab of the jersey a little bit or something of that nature, and it really doesn't impede him, but it was just a slight movement, but it didn't stop his momentum, well, then it's not a hole in my mind as well. So even in contact, in our level is, you first of all, we don't have a 5 yard rule. Wideout can be going down the sideline on the left side and get cold cocked 20 yards down the field, but the ball is in the air and it was thrown in this quadrant over here, or this, there's no penalty. But if it
Mhm.
happens in this area, they cut it up, I think, in threes, outside the hash, middle, and then the other side.
Yeah.
That if it happens in this outside that hash contact, then it is a flag. Okay. So I actually like that rule. Again, it goes back to, is it affecting the play? If it doesn't affect the
Yeah.
play, then what's it really matter?
Yeah, I mean, the big things that I'm truly looking for is obviously safety fouls. Anything where somebody can potentially get hurt or initiating any type of safety or flagrant type of foul, we're going to throw that regardless of where it is on the field. But then the point of the attack plays, and it's it, it's got to have an effect on the play. And one thing that we are trying to get across to everybody is don't be so quick to throw the flag. Let it marinate. Did you see it? Did this happen? And when it comes to holding, we have three kind of rules that we go through our head. Did it impede the runner? Was it at the point of the attack? Because at the high school level, You get the kids throw their hands up. Oh, I'm being held. I'm being held. Well, I'm not going to call that one. Like you got to work to try to get yourself off of that block in order for me to call it for you're not even attempting to make a play on the ball.
Yeah.
But the crazy thing is with the NFL, and here's why I do understand it a little bit more with the NFL, is your quarterbacks are sometimes reading three, four receivers from the left side, middle, right side, and then down to their check down. So that hold that could happen on the right side when the quarterback was first looking left, well, that one would have to be called. The high school level, that's not happening often. Coaches are giving them typically a two-person type of read, maybe with a third read, or reading one defensive player and reacting off that defensive player on that particular route, as opposed to scanning the field and then hitting a dump off. So, at the high school level, I think we can let it go a little bit more because if
Yeah.
I see them looking at that side and then something happens over here, it's not going to be affected.
Yeah. Well, I one thing that it's just really fun to work with guys that are really good at their job. And one thing in coaching 6 years at the college level, I can't think of one game and one referee that stood out to me that did a bad job. Did he make every right call? No, but they're very professional. Talk like this in our last playoff game that we lost. Tom, who was the head ref, just a guy, just a great guy.
Yeah,
Just doing his job. And and the sideline guy Ryan was just phenomenal. And just doing their jobs. I mean, these guys are most of them. Ryan is a lawyer. So I
yep,
mean, they all have other jobs and what they're doing, and they're just out there because they love the love of the sport. you know, and you have to keep that in mind. I mean, this guy's not out there, and most coaches, they think they're out to get him. No, they're not. I mean, these guys aren't out to get you. I mean, they're just
no.
calling a game. And I think if most coaches just took that perspective, I think we'd be okay. It would be a lot less arguing. But at our level, we haven't, and even in the pro level, man, I used to form a great relationship with a lot of those guys. Still miss a lot of them. Most of them are not here anymore. Um,
Mhm.
but we just some really good guys that were just great refs in games.
Yeah, and like you said, they're out there doing a job, and I wish I could say that everything that I've done in my life was perfect from when I was a young kid to
Yeah,
as a parent. I know I've made a mistake as a parent. I'm a school teacher. I know I've made a mistake as a school teacher, and now I'm an official. And I used to be a coach, and I always joke around. I still go to coaching clinics because I'm coaching my son's youth team, and so some of the coaches that I'm officiating are like, "Well, what are you doing here?" I'm like, "Well, it's my turn now when you make a bad play call for me to go to the sideline and say, Coach, what the heck were you calling on that?
yeah,
Like you guys do to me." But
yeah,
I won't do
yeah,
that. I joke around with them, but
yeah,
yeah, we're all gonna make mistakes, and just understanding that and being able to move on from it. And for us, having some thick skin and understanding the emotion and the time that you guys as coaches and players
yeah,
are putting in the year-round workouts and different things like that,
yeah,
we're getting better at it. As a whole, as an officiating society, we are definitely getting better at it. Going to clinics, talking, doing stuff like this, just trying to keep the conversation open on how we can do a better job to make it easier for everybody involved. Because dealing with a coach like yourself, it makes our game a lot easier too. And we definitely can go back after the game, and we're critical of ourselves. We do go back, even at the high school level. I watch game film and see if I missed a call, or I definitely go and look at when I did make a call and say, "All right, I probably should have kept that one in the pocket," or "Nope, I was spot on with that one." So we're getting better with all that stuff to try to catch up to the coaches and the players to make the game just a better game involved.
yeah. You hit the nail on
Um,
the head, Mike. And that goes on both sides. And I said it this a second ago that coaches shouldn't take a referee's call personal. And there's the other side of that, and you said it yourself. Refs shouldn't take a coach yelling and screaming personal because
yeah,
we're not good guys sometimes, and
yep,
we're all human. It's funny in the last game we played, I heard their coach yelling out the referees when they got a holding call on them. Quit calling. You know, just because he plays in the NFL doesn't mean that he should be getting all the calls. And I'm like, do you really think the referee actually thinking that? No, they don't think that. I
No.
mean, they're just reffing a game. But it's comments like that that referees just got to laugh at and just say, and just put it beyond them instead of taking it personal. And the guys that I've seen and have been phenomenal in this area and gotten way better over the 27 years that I've been coaching, by the way.
Good, good. That's awesome to hear. One thing I still haven't heard that I wish I have is getting yelled at and getting ripped on the field for a call that I made or didn't make. But then later on in the game, the coach will sometimes then come over subtly, "Hey, I saw that one on film. Good call." I want
Yeah.
to say to him, "Why don't you yell that out so the people in the stands can hear that part of it? Because
Yeah.
now it's already stuck into their head that I'm a terrible official, that I'm out to get you." And I do appreciate when the coach says, "Hey, listen, that was my fault. Let's announce that. Coach admitted
Yeah.
they were wrong."
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
know I'm stretching on that one.
No, and you bring up a good point, and I guess it's similar to as a coach. Every time we decide who's going to play or who's going to get the call or whatever it is, you've disappointed their parents and the kid, right?
Yep.
I got out of that business a long time ago. Um, I just know for me the criteria is am I trying to do what's best for this team, um, and not individuals.
Yeah.
Individuals would be more of the character building and away from the field stuff. I'm worried about that kid's feelings and helping them get through, life. But when it comes to playing time and games and what we're trying to do, every decision is made on team. And every coach would tell you that. Okay. But I've got caught up into the emotion of trying to please a kid and their parent and they're like that. I got out of that a long time ago. Doesn't work
Yeah.
because you're never going to please them.
You know, some sports are a lot easier. I used to be a track coach, and how come my kid's not throwing? Well, that other kid, they throw farther than your kid, so that's why they're throwing.
Yeah.
Where football, there's a lot more gray area involved, and you do have to look into the scope of what is best for the team. And I could tell you, even myself as an official, we consider ourselves the third team that are out there. Like, what's
Yeah.
going to be the benefit of our team? How can I be better to help out our team? Because we conference a lot. We talk about a flag and different things like that. And we had an instance. It was on a punt where the ball was bouncing around. Either the gunner or the defensive player, I forget who it was. The ball was bouncing and it may have hit them, and then it was recovered. So our one official didn't have a clear view of it. So I came running in. Our short wing came running in. We sat there. We talked for about 30 seconds. Our head referee was way back by the punter. He's like, "What's going on down there? You guys, let me know. Let me know what's going on." Wave off the flag. Flag on the play. We're just like, wave it off. That's on us. No flag on the play. I forget what the flag was actually for. And we then went to the head referee. He explained it to the coaches, both coaches on both sides. Everybody was good with it. Play ball from there. So we kind of helped each other out as a team. And it's not, "Hey, why the heck did you make that call?" It's like, "Hey, okay, this is what I saw. What did you see?" "All right, I
Yeah.
didn't see it clear. So yeah, you helped me out. Let's go." Okay. So we're still a team that's out there trying to do the best thing that we can. And again, not trying to cheat a team.
Yeah. That's why I always like to see crews stay together and work the whole year together pretty much. You might add here and there and subtract here and there, but as
Yeah.
a core, that unit kind of stays together all year because they get used to each other and that matters. It's just like if I brought in a new wideout in our system and he's going to try to fit in with the quarterback and the other guys, there's transitions, things that you got to go through. I love when referees come in the playoffs, especially, and they were together all year.
Yeah. Good stuff. Um, and we do have a set crew. So, and one of our pregame talks is no egos. We don't have an ego on the field, and we're not gonna carry our own personal ego or personal vendetta. And last year, this coach ripped us, and blah blah blah. No, this year it's a new year, so we're going into each game with a fresh mind and a fresh thing. And one thing that we do have, and it comes down to we're talking coach speak and watching film and different things, is we also do have game notes that we write up about a particular team, and we discuss it. So on the previous week, we didn't work the game. But okay, number 43 had two penalties for unsportsmanlike conduct. We talk about it, we put it in our mind, but it's a new game. What was going on in there? Have this day. They maybe just had a bad day. So we're taking that into account as we go into the game. And okay, 43 now, you had a fantastic game today. So there's no penalty. So something that we try to do as, again, I call it the third team. We try to do as a team setting. So,
Yeah, I think it's great that referees do that. We'll send our game film to refs and they give us the things that happened in the course of the game and all the penalties that were called. They'll send it to us, and it's great for them to just evaluate themselves. It's the same thing that we do as a coaching staff on our offense and defense. We're always evaluating ourselves. Man, if you're not evaluating yourself and critiquing yourself and you're not getting better. So you guys are the same way. You're right. You guys are a team as well, and you got a game to play in ref, and same similarities that we go through as coaches.
yeah, it is. And for me, it keeps me involved in the sport that I love. So that is always my ultimate goal of staying involved with the sport and helping other people have as good as an experience that I can help them have with the sport.
Yeah, that's true.
So, Coach, I want to kind of transition a little bit here. You're an author too.
Yep.
You're an author about there.
Yeah. So I recently, well, I'll be honest, I didn't think I was ever a book guy. And now that book is turning into a movie, which is supposed to come out at the end of 2026. I think it's called Run for Glory is the working title right now.
Okay.
So Salty Earth Productions is doing the movie. I never thought I was that guy, Mike. I'll be honest with you. That's more for Jim and Brett and those guys and Reggie's story. One day we'll probably get told. But my story is crazy, and you've only heard just a very small percentage of how I should have never played in the NFL. It was God's calling in my life. I'm a man of faith. Certainly don't hide that, but yet I don't push it on anybody. And I wrote a book. It's called Six Rings from Nowhere because I have six rings. You get one, win or lose. One's an NFC championship or one's a Super Bowl championship, but they all look the same. And then just recently in the last 6 to 8 months, I kind of felt led to do 2 devotionals. And I have some unbelievable things that have happened to me in my life. And so I thought, man, you know what? I'll write a devotional for athletes. And what's it mean to never give up? And I have the staple play. God gave me the staple play in the history of never giving up in Super Bowl 27, which everybody knows it. No matter where I go, people know me for that play. Yeah, go ahead.
I got it queued up here if you don't mind playing it. Yep.
Okay.
So here's the play here.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, this at this point in the time of the game, there's 4 or 5 minutes left in the game. We're down 52-17, and you can see me coming. Nobody really knows it's estimated about 30 yards away, but there's a lot of things that I've taught off this play. First of all, I never thought we'd be talking about this, 31 years later, whatever it is now. Crazy. But we're still talking about this. I still get fan mail letters every single day, Mike, every day for 30 some years. Somebody is sending me a letter about this play. Thank you so much. Will you please sign this? But man, I remember you for that play. Or I'm speaking on a podcast about that play. Every interview I do, okay, gets to this play. And so I thought, golly, this thing has gotten so many crazy miles out of it. Why don't I do a devotional about it around my faith? So I did it, and it's called Never Give Up. It has the Leon Let Play picture on the front of the cover.
Okay.
And the first story that I talk about is that play. Why did I make the play? What was I thinking when I was running down the field? What brought me to even think about making that play? You're getting beat 52-17. Who in their right mind would sprint 80 yards or 70 yards to knock the ball out of the way so they score 59? Who cares? 59, 52. I mean, the game's over, right? It's just not the way I was raised. And so I wrote about that devotional. That came out about 6 months ago. But then we got so much reaction from it. I mean, for people everywhere. And I thought, golly, I had a great dad, and my ultimate father in heaven, Christ, is the ultimate father. And I thought, you know what, I have a lot of experience in raising 4 kids, and really being around kids for 27 years in coaching.
Yep.
You're a father. I mean, it is what it is. You're a father figure.
Yep.
And so I wrote another devotional that just came out not too long ago, 3-4 weeks ago. It's called In His Image, a father's devotional. And the very first devotional I wrote about there, one of my favorites, was about my own son, who experienced so many setbacks in life. I mean, just injury after injury. 11 of 12 seasons that he played from his sophomore year through his 4 years of the Minnesota Vikings. 11 of those 12 years were season-ending injury. 3 of them in the National Football League. 3 of the 4 years that he played were on IR. It ended on IR.
Oh.
How can a man keep persevering and getting himself back up? So In His Image is one of the stories I talk about. And how does a father deal with that? I mean, because listen, as dads, okay, our kids are everything to us, right? I mean, we want to do whatever we can for our kids. And sometimes it hurts. It really hurts. How do you get through that? So I share, how I did as a father, got through those things. And Mike, the only way people can get them, it's not on Amazon. You can't find it anywhere. You only can get them at donbeebe.com. And that's the way it's set up right now. Eventually it might get to those other avenues, but and donbeebe.com has all this. My daughter is our youngest. I'm actually down here in Nashville right now visiting with my 2 daughters and son who lives down here in Nashville.
Okay.
And she works for a marketing firm that actually put the books out. So it's cool to be able to work with your kid doing books on your life stories. So
that is awesome stuff. Anything that you're still able to be involved with your kids when they're outside. My son's 12, my daughter's 13, going on 23. It seems like.
Yeah.
So I try to stay involved with them as much as I can, between coaching them and just helping them along with everything in life. So it's a lot of fun, and the fact that you got to do these books with them involved is just awesome stuff. And I love them. I definitely got to get myself a copy of them. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't had a chance to get them yet.
Yeah.
Um, I got to catch up on a lot of my reading. Football season kind of took away a lot of my extra time of getting my reading going, but it's
Yeah,
definitely
I'm
something.
glad you mentioned that, Mike, because I actually wrote those with that in mind. We're all busy. We're such a busy people nowadays. And so I wrote them in devotionals. They're like short stories that take you 2 minutes to read it, and but it's very impactful in a very short period of 1.5 pages that you can get through something like, oh, wow, that's an interesting perspective. So these would be perfect for guys like me and you who are really busy guys.
Yeah, but Don, we're just about at that 50-minute mark, so I don't want to hold you up, especially that you're visiting with your family right now too. So once again, I want to say thank you very much for taking the time to jump on my show today. I truly do appreciate, and thank you for sharing your story with everybody. And I'm actually really looking forward to getting my hands on those books and diving deep into them, especially the one in his image. I definitely I like that one, and I think I'm gonna. My son's not a big reader, but I want him to read the Never Give Up book. So I think that's
Yeah.
something that he may be getting as a Christmas present himself. So
Yeah. Well, that's great. And thanks for having me on, Mike. And again, for all that you guys do, there's such a lot of good guys out there reffing games right now. And I always enjoy conversations during the course of the games with guys like you.
appreciate that. Thank you.
You bet.
Well, once again, ladies and gentlemen, Don Beebe, 6-time Super Bowl player, Super Bowl champion, state champion coach, college football coach, dad, author, a man of many hats, and seems to be a podcast legend too these days. So
Yeah.
I appreciate everything you do. Go to the website, donbeebe.com, where you'll be able to find the books for Don. Reach out to me, Mike D, the referee at gmail.com. If you have any questions, I will gladly point you in the right directions. Don, thank you once again. I hope you have a happy and safe holiday. Enjoy the time with your family, and be well.
Yeah. Merry Christmas. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, so we are done with the recording. Don, that was great. I
Yeah.
truly do appreciate you taking the time out and